Hello, and how are you today, guys? My name is Mitch Corbett. I am the host of your podcast today, which is called Hello, How Are You Today? Let's see how that flows into it. This week, I have a great guest. His name is L Dillon Thomas. He has worked on such films as Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tell No Tales, A Star is Born, Pokemon Detective Pikachu, the Fast 9 saga F9, or F9, the Fast Saga, and is currently a first assistant editor on the Samaritan film, which is in pre and post-production right now. I met Dylan, luckily, while I was working on cruise ships. Him and his wife were, I think, on their honeymoon or just vacationing, one of those two things. And we just struck up a nice conversation while we were on the same tour bus, and we've quickly became friends. And so I want to have him on the podcast to kind of discuss his career and his evolution in being in post-production on film sets, past film sets, that sort of thing. So let's get to the conversation with L Dillon Thomas. All right, welcome to the podcast, L Dillon Thomas. Thank you for joining me here. Dylan, right?
Yeah, Dylan's fine.
Dylan, you are an editor in Hollywood. You've worked on such films as the Fast 9, F9, the Fast Saga. I'm going to go through your Rolodex: Detective Pikachu, A Star is Born, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tell No Tales, Leftovers, Constantine. Oh, man, that's such a good show. Why? Why did it have to end? New Girl. Almost Human was also a good show. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you've done so much work. So a brief our history is like I met you while I was working on a cruise and you were on vacation with your wife. So that was, I think, almost 3 years ago or so.
I think that was 2017. So it was like 4 years ago.
Oh, wow. So how have you been since then? How's the wife? How's everything going for you guys? You're in California, obviously. So, you know, I'm in Canada. A few different parallels there. Universes, if you will. Different universes, really.
A little different. I've actually never had the pleasure of exploring Canada. So, you know, I don't know. It sounds nice to me. The grass is always greener.
I won't tell you the horrible things that we do over here.
Okay, well, I'll keep ours quiet too. Yeah, no, I mean, I've been busy, as you can see, since you know, we took that vacation. Just to clarify, I'm an assistant editor on those larger things. Unfortunately, I'm not actually the person there really piecing everything together. We're there to just help and assist in whatever way, in every way we possibly can, you know, for the men and women that are actually piecing those things together. So just to clarify.
So I think that's a great starting point. So like, it does say assistant editor. I don't know if people understand how much work goes into film, because like there's a director, assistant AD, assistant AD, editor. So how many links of the chain is there for when you do such a big film like Detective Pikachu or Fast 9 or Samaritan, which you're first assistant editor on?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of links in the chain. It depends on how big the film is, obviously. I mean, you have basically 3 stages of a film: pre-production, which is basically writing, building the sets, you know, just prepping if the actors are doing action sequences, whatever, everything before you actually start shooting it. And then you have production, which is where they actually, all the pieces finally come together. And you're actually shooting it. I think on Fast 9, the main unit, which is the one with all the lead actors, stuff like that, shot for like 100 something days. Then we had second unit shooting a lot of the action sequences and stuff like that. That was another 80 probably days in there. You know, we're all over the world trying to coordinate that stuff. And then all that comes to us, the third part of it, which is editorial or post-production. And that includes sound design, sound mixing, VFX, putting everything together. And what we do in my department is literally every frame, every aspect of the movie kind of funnels through the assistant editors and the editors. And we're kind of the ones that finally piece all, the tens of thousands of moving parts, together at kind of like the very end. And we're on there from day one of production. And then for something like Fast and Furious, we were on for about a year after, just finishing up.
Is it the lead, like you have the director who's directing the film on set, but I'm assuming they're also heavily involved with the actual editing process as well, because it's their kind of vision. So like how does all that communication funnel down to make sure everything runs smoothly? And I mean, I work in television where things don't work smoothly. So like how does it flow down? And like what happens if something goes wrong? And is it kind of like clockwork where like you guys are able to overcome those obstacles fairly quickly?
I mean, every situation is different. You know, for us, we don't have to deal with a lot of those issues. Just because in editorial, we get whatever you give us. You know, if somebody forgot to turn on a camera or something like that, that's not my problem. I mean, it is my problem, but you know,
has that happened before?
it's not my fault. No comment. We actually, I had a student film that we did once, and we actually had our lead actress. She had this huge crying scene, and we forgot to roll the first time, and she's just bawling her eyes out. And anyways, that hasn't happened, thankfully. Now that I've moved on to the more professional side of things, that was in when I was in college. But yeah, as far as problems go, I mean, the director is obviously kind of the lead of it all. I mean, they are the ones that are the constant multitasking they have to do. You know, you're shooting one scene, and then you have to go over to you know, the stage 4, whatever it is, to check how that's going, and then you have to approve other blueprints or costuming or any number of things going on at the same time. And as far as problems go, the more money you have, the easier problems are to solve. You know, if you're on something smaller like Samaritan, it's you don't have necessarily all of the backing to fix it. A lot of times it's just, oh well, we can't do that. But on something bigger like, you know, Pirates or Fast and Furious or Pikachu, they usually do plan to have additional photography. So as you're in there, you know, cutting and piecing the movie together, you're like, oh, wouldn't it be great to have this, or wouldn't it be great to explore this more, or we didn't get this on the day, we need to shoot that again or differently. So I mean, it's one of the things. Either you have the money to fix it, or you have to find a creative way to solve it. And that can come from any number of people, director, the studio. It just honestly, it kind of depends on each scenario. Everyone's different, but there's always new problems, which is one reason I do enjoy it.
So yeah, I mean, like that's there's always a constant evolution of states with a film, right? It always kind of keeps you on your toes. So you're kind of like having to what's the word, like kind of like be on your toes, which I feel is a kind of a great state of mind to be in a creative field. What would you say, like I've gone through your IMDb. I think it's cool that you actually have an IMDb. That's really awesome and everything. What was it like when you first got that first editing job, and how rewarding, and like how much did you learn from that first experience on, like, I guess not a major film set, but a film set professionally?
Well, my first film set, and don't tell my mother, it was actually softcore porn. And so if you dig deep enough on my IMDb, you'll see that. But that was my first job when I first moved out here, and I kind of was conned into that job. It was presented on Craigslist. That should have been my first morning.
I almost fell down that same loophole, my friend. Don't worry. It gets us every once in a while.
Yeah, so you just got to take you take what you can, and I didn't know anyone, so I had some success with Craigslist in Austin when I kind of first started out there. So I was like, oh well, Los Angeles, maybe I'll have the same kind of luck. And I remember that show. It was called Jane Sex Chronicles, but they marketed, or on Craigslist it said an HBO show was needing a post-production assistant, or a gopher, basically.
So and HBO, it's not porn, is the comical.
Well, so it was Cinemax, which is owned by HBO, and that's how they kind of told the truth without telling the truth. So my first experience was a little different in that. And now during that, I did not get to cut anything. Not that I would really want to edit anything. But at the same time, I was actually cutting a short film from a friend of mine in college. We graduated, and he had actually shot it in Florida. Was sending me the media in Los Angeles, and I was cutting it there. So it was kind of a mixed bag at the time. So I was getting my first real experience, as it were, and also getting to actually edit something that I really did enjoy. And for me, it always is really rewarding to kind of see it all come together. As when we work in editorial, we see the movie over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. You know all the nooks and crannies of it, for better and worse, and you kind of get numb to it, and you just don't know, up from down, kind of. And then we get to preview it in front of an audience to see how it's testing. And that's always kind of a kind of big refresher, like, oh, right, this is it. This is great. This is why we do this. People are laughing, they're enjoying it, they're hating it, I guess, if you're not having a good time in that sense. But it always is very, even though I don't really get to be too terribly creative as an assistant, there are moments that there are scenes that I have gotten to cut for films that have made it in the end. And but it is always, it's kind of why you keep coming back. It really is just because at the end of the day, you get to see, oh, it made this much money, it got these types of reviews, people love it, or they hear that you worked on Detective Pikachu and they're like, oh my gosh, I loved whatever, all of the movie. So it really does kind of keep you energized and doing it, because it is, making films is such a grind, but it is at the same time oddly rewarding in any aspect, just because you really get to see how an audience takes it, whether it's TV, whether it's YouTube or whatever, capacity. But it always is usually a good feeling. I haven't worked on anything horrendous yet, thankfully.
So, I spent a lot of time in editing suites. I know there's probably not very many windows in those sort of things. So when you've worked on a project as big as ones you've worked on, and how do you come down from an experience like that?
How do I come down? What, when it's over?
Yeah, or when you finish like a 12-hour day, because sometimes like you're editing, and then like you kind of lose. I imagine you lose track of time because you want to get it done. Like there's such a time limit for editing everything. So how do you come down from that high or that low when you get home, or like after you're done a project?
Man, it's tough. Usually, the drive home usually helps just kind of start that. And then when I get home, if I haven't eaten, that's obviously going to get my blood sugar back to normal. It is kind of hard to want to watch TV or a film or something, usually, especially when the days start to hit the 16 hours, every day for 2 or 3 months.
And I mean, you're doing 16 hours, and you are like, and I don't know, people that may not know, like you're in an edit suite is no windows, soundproofed, so you can hear all this, pick out everything out. I mean, it's when you get outside to the real world, you're much like a sound or a visual shock, so almost sort of thing.
It can be, especially when you get out into daylight, and you've had artificial light, with you, or no light. And now I've had, actually the last 2 movies, I've had a window, but then you just wind up covering it up. So you kind of might as well not even have a window. But yeah, no, it can be a shock, but sometimes you show up, I've shown up at like 5 a.m. before the sun comes up, and then you leave when the sun's, already down. And so then it's really jarring whenever you're having to do that. Those kinds of days are rare, but yeah, it's always bad if you can't leave and there's still daylight. That's always kind of disheartening. But yeah, just to kind of come down, I mean, maybe video games. I'll listen to like a podcast or an album of some kind or something like that, just to do it. If you're in a rush, you can use this. There's
cheers, by the way. Cheers.
Oh yeah, cheers. Like on Fast and Furious or F9, the last 2 months were pretty much 60 some odd days, no break, and working about 16 hours a day every day. There are some union guidelines that make it extremely expensive to not allow the crews to have more than 8 hours or less than 8 hours off, I should say. So they usually will abide by that. And on those, it's just kind of you can't come down from it. You kind of go home, you crawl into bed, you hope you fall asleep in a reasonable amount of time, and then you get up and you go right back to work. And that's just kind of what it becomes. Thankfully on that movie, I lived an 8-minute walk away, but sometimes that was lucky. But some of them you don't have that, and it can be very, very taxing on you. And usually when I'm done with the film, I need 3 or 4 months of not working to kind of just decompress and be ready to do it again, because it is so there are just so many. There are plenty of moments where it's calm and it's steady and it's great, and usually the beginning and the end, there's a few months on either side that are just very, very grueling. And so at the end of the day, honestly, if you can't come down, you just hope the show ends soon so that you can take some time off.
And I think that's a constant complaint that people might have within themselves, like, like they don't understand, like, you're not doing like construction, like it's not a physically demanding job, but like the mental stress and the wear and tear that does on your eyes and mental, like going, like it drains you, not just mentally but physically all the way down certain things. So when you do finish like a 12-hour day for someone who does something like construction or a more physical job, I mean, they get home, they can relax physically. Here you're probably thinking, I should have done this way, I could have done it this way. You're never really escaping it, sort of thing. And so I mean, it's incredible to, like, when you go through your page and you see that evolution of work and everything. I want to kind of go back and, like, what made you, what are some of your favorite films? What made you a fan of this genre or of this media form? And what kind of made you want to get into editing as opposed to, like, being a camera operator or, being a producer, that sort of thing?
For me, your favorite films kind of, move in and out as you're growing up. But for me, I think Jaws is probably my favorite film. It's one of those films, if it's on, I'll watch it. I think I have 3 different copies of it that I've never actually watched, but if it's on TV and there's commercials, for some reason I'll watch it. And that's kind of my guide.
I'll tell you, the same can be said for Gladiator. Like, if it's on TV, I'm watching Gladiator.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's one of those directors, you hope you get to work with before they wind up retiring in one way or another. But as far as, like, what inspired me, I kind of got into it accidentally when I was like 13. We grew up in a more conservative house, so my parents didn't like a lot of bad language and stuff like that in movies. And I had 3 younger siblings, and I was obsessed with Godzilla at the time. And so I figured out a way to take 2 VCRs and remove the sound whenever somebody was swearing, basically. And that was
on a VCR tape.
Yeah. So yeah, so I had an actual tape of it, and then I was recording it to another one. And then I would basically just literally pull out the audio whenever, like, a bad word was about to come up or something like that. So I was that was my first time editing, and I didn't really even know it.
And that was like out of necessity, not like pleasure.
well, it was for them. It wasn't for me. I could watch it. It was fine. But my brothers and sisters wanted to watch it too, and they couldn't. And I was like, oh well, I don't know. I had time. I was a kid. I'll figure this out. And I just didn't. No one showed me how to do it. I just knew enough about it to kind of start it. So that did it there. And then when Jackass was popular, we did exactly what they said not to do, which was try and do stupid things and record it. And so we edited some of that stuff together. At the church I was going to, they had an editing suite there. And that was kind of my first dabble in editing and shooting, really, for that matter. And I just kind of fell in love with it there. And then one day somebody said to me, you're actually not bad at that. Have you ever thought about doing that for a living? And I was about 20 at that time and was trying to figure out what to do with my life. I was at the time going to school for music performance, which I knew wasn't going to take me anywhere because I wasn't that good, but I didn't know what else to do. I always loved music. I always loved, band and stuff in high school, marching band and concert season and all that. I just loved, kind of the ensemble of it all. But I realized I'm going to be a band director, and I don't want to be a band director. Mm-hmm. And so I was taking some time off, and somebody just said that. I was just, we were just making movies, short films, whatever. And I don't know why the thought had never occurred to me, but it never had until somebody said it. And then it was just like, oh, there it is. And then editing was always my favorite part of the process. So I would say that's probably what made me think that editing would probably have been the best route to go. because you really get to create it. There's what you write, there's what you shoot, and then there's finally what you edit, which can't, depending on what's happening, could be very, very different than what you originally shot or intended.
So we'll pause here. What did you think of the newest Jackass trailer?
Oh, right.
I felt guilty watching it. To be honest.
They were like, I think they said something like Steve-O's 49, or one of them was like 49, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, because it took me back to like when we were doing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, I don't know how old I was or how many years that would be at this point, but yeah, no, I'll be there. I always love those movies, so
I do too. But like, I felt so bad watching it because I'm like, guys, you don't have to do it anymore. Like the last one was a very good finale. You don't need to, please. Like Johnny Knoxville has a full gray hair. Like we don't need to do this anymore.
Yeah, I just don't know how you do it, because I'm 35 now, and we were doing that when I was 19, 20 years old, and I'm like, I would never do any of that stuff now, And Johnny Knoxville's over there almost 50 doing it.
Well, and like not like, and like they're 50 and sober doing it. Which like, surprises me even more.
Yeah, Steve-O, right? Yeah, he's completely sober now. I couldn't imagine doing that without drug enhancements or mass painkillers. There's just no way. But I'll be there, man. Probably opening weekend. That's a guilty pleasure.
Oh, for sure. So you mentioned how like. I think it's cool that how like your idea of editing was just kind of came from like you wanting to just like take swear words out of a Godzilla film, and then someone just suggested to you, hey, why don't you try it for a career? And I feel like sometimes all it is that little spark, right? So when you got that little spark, how long did it take for you to kind of like look into avenues how you can make that career?
It was pretty instant. At that time, I was 20, so that was 7 years after the Godzilla fiasco, and so I was itching certainly to kind of get my career going at that point, and so I was looking at different avenues to go and whatever else. I wound up going to a little film school that really didn't do as much as I would have liked it to. You get out of film school and you realize, oh, I didn't need film school. I could have just been working the entire time for free and saved myself the debt. And, but
I 100% agree with you. 100%.
Yeah. Most people probably would. And I loved it. It was a great time. I had some good friends. I met my wife through it. She wasn't there, but, from being in that area. And, she was an actress at the time. So we did meet through that, but yeah, so
wait, I have not the first film you worked on, right?
No. Before that. It was pretty instant. I was like, I have to do this. And I remember once we graduated, I went back to Texas because I didn't really know what to do specifically. I knew I needed to go to Los Angeles, but I just didn't have anyone that I knew out there right away. And I was like, well, Austin at the time had some decent stuff going on, and so I went to Austin, for like 3 or 4 months and worked there. Craigslist was good in Austin. No one was trying to swindle you. And then literally just one day I was done with like my third or fourth movie that I was working on set. I was not working in editorial. And I was like, well, this is not the place for that. I knew Los Angeles was. And I remember telling my mom, because I'd come home to visit after everything was done. And I think she thought I'd be around for a little bit, but I was just like, I got to go. I feel like if my memory recalls, I took a nap and woke up and was like, I got to go. And I left that night for Los Angeles from Dallas. That's where my parents were at the time. So yeah, and I just took off with video games, clothes, my movie collection, and like $1,400, and that was it. And just a wish and a hope. I had some friends that lived out there at the time. They were gonna let me crash on their floor until I got on my feet. And yeah, so it was pretty instant from someone telling me to 2 years later being done with school and working on some productions in Austin and realizing this isn't where I need to be to get this done and going. I was too young to know any different.
It sounds very similar to my I went on cruise ships right after college almost, sort of thing. And it kind of sounds similar to where like you graduate school and then everything yet and use now in your career has been learned on the job. Like I don't remember a single thing I learned from college, to be honest. I really like everything has been shooting, editing, producing as I go, sort of thing. And I think that's a lesson that not enough people may get. It's like if you find something that you're passionate about, just do it. And things. And I think that's a great thing that social media, YouTube has been, or even TikTok, which I don't watch, has been an influx of like creative people just doing creative things, sort of thing. So you go to LA from Austin. Austin to me, I hear, is like a very arts and creative. How much of Austin did you take to Texas, or how much of Austin did you take to LA in terms of creativity or like experience?
Well, really none, because all the experience I had in Austin was not helpful because it was all set related. I guess as time went on, I did wind up getting to work on some pretty neat movie sets. I remember Transformers was the first one. The second Transformers, was the first set I actually got to be a part of as a minimum wage, employee. We were just there to kind of wrangle extras or make sure people didn't walk out into the street when a car was exploding or something like that.
Yeah, that would be bad. You don't want don't want someone to explode with the car.
Yeah, that's how you never work again. So yeah, I mean, really, most of the experience I had kind of helped me, get some of the set jobs that I had. But the experience that I had in Austin was really just, although it was set work, it was kind of understanding how the set functioned and who the hierarchies are. If I'm an editorial, and I need, sound issues, or I need something recorded, that might be a scheduling issue, which would be the first or second assistant director. That would also be the sound person, who I need to also make sure, okay, I need this actor scheduled to do these lines that we're missing or need while we still have them. So in that sense, I would say it probably just helped me understand the hierarchy of how a set works. And then how
I had to imagine that was pretty important in terms of like being an editor, like realizing like, not everything happens so smoothly, and like having patience with editing.
Yeah, it's having patience, but kind of as editors, we are very because we're not on set, right? So you maybe don't get to experience the hardship and difficulty of getting a certain shot, or a certain thing to line up. You're just sitting there going like, not in focus. It's not in focus. And that kind of works. Nope. So we have a very what's the word I'm looking for? It's
unique relationship with set.
We love set. It's not that, but it's just kind of like we don't have the emotion that comes with these shots. So when we are piecing everything together, we may not use everything in the way that the director wanted, and the director will see it. Usually, depending on what kind of director it is, but they'll see it, sooner rather than later, and see how everything's piecing together. But you do kind of get a kind of callous, kind of mindset, because we don't have, like I said, the hours spent doing that. We just look at it and go, I can't do anything with this shot. I'm not using it. And then then the director comes in and go, oh, but I love this shot. We spent a day and a half making it. And you're like, okay, we'll put it in. And then, at the end of the day, after the director lives with it, maybe they decide not to keep it at all. So it just depends.
So, man, it's so, I'm so happy for your success. First of all, I mean, I think it's very cool that you get to take that time off after a project and kind of unwind and get ready for a new project. What was it like the first time you got that call to work on one of those like bigger, like one of those bigger productions? Was it like, yay, and then oh shit, or was it like oh shit and then yay? Or, you know what I mean?
So I was in reality TV for about
you poor bastard.
4 years.
You poor bastard.
Yeah. I went from, well, it was a step up from softcore porn. So
yeah, I mean, how much of a step up though was it really?
A huge step up. Let me just huge. Okay, it was, but I wasn't.
I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not a huge fan of reality TV.
Well, so I know how the sausage is made. And my wife can't watch reality TV with me because I'm like, that's fake. That was produced. That was,
I did one episode of a reality TV show once, and I was like, not for me.
Yeah, and I knew it wasn't for me either. I feature films is kind of where I wanted to be in, and honestly, reality TV is its own monster of just new, completely different difficulties. I have the utmost respect for people that do it, but for me personally, me getting out of reality TV was kind of the moment of, oh my God, it's finally happening. Because I'd been, just trying to claw my way up. And how do you meet people that are not in reality TV? I mean, it's a whole different planet between reality TV and feature film.
It's a completely different genre of film and television. It's its own animal.
Completely different way of making it. The lingo is different. Like it's very different. So for me, Almost Human. Well, so first one I did was Siberia, and that was kind of like a reality TV hybrid show. It was a non-union show, which is really what you want to be. You want to have a union show because those are the big shows. Those are the real scripted television shows and stuff like that. So for me, it was Almost Human in 2013, and I remember I went in to interview for that job, and they called me at I was on my way to dinner, and they called me, and I was actually just finishing a feature film that I had cut. It was like a $50,000 movie, so it was my first one, so I was kind of high on that. And a friend of mine who'd helped me with it, the only way I could pay him was to take him out to a nice dinner. So I was like, all right, we'll go to Ruth's Chris. So on the way, I get a call from somebody, an editor or producer or something on the show, saying, hey, can you come in and chat with us? Sure. Right, whatever. It was a Bad Robot TV show. I was like, there's no way I'm getting on this. This is hilarious. And I was very cocky, and I was just like, oh, well, I'm going to dinner right now, thinking they'll just leave me alone. And they're like, oh, we'll still be here. Well, like, when you're done. So stop by on your way back. So, okay. So I have 3 drinks at dinner because I'm like, I'm not getting this job. I don't have the resume. I don't have anything. There's no reason for me to get this job. I don't know anybody on the show. There was just no way. And
was it just kind of like a right place, right time sort of thing?
I mean, yeah, I guess. But I went in loose, and I guess I made a good enough impression. And I wish I would have paid attention, because why are they here at 10:30 at night? That should be a big red flag. And sure enough, I got the show, and I remember getting the phone call, and I ran around the block. I was just full of energy, and because I've been pushing for this, for like 4.5 years, and I just finished my first feature film that I got to edit myself, and that was a great experience.
Oh, which film was that, by the way, that you got to feature? Edit?
Oh, I'm sorry, Varsity Blood, which is I think it's on YouTube even. I think somebody pirated it and put it up there. But yeah, Varsity Blood was my first feature film that I got to cut, as an actual editor on that, and that was a great experience. I worked from home. It was just a little bitty movie. We had distribution. Plenty of people saw it. It was great. We didn't get any box office revenue or anything.
Was that High School Vampire?
No. It was like an homage to kind of the 80s kind of horror films.
Okay.
Kind of a modern.
I think you like that kind of genre, don't you? I think we talked about it once or twice.
Yeah, I do. I mean, really, the only genre I don't like is comedy, at least as far as working in. I can't do it.
Which breaks my heart, because I'm a huge comedy fan. Like, I love doing stand-up and everything.
Oh, no. I love comedy. I just can't work comedy because, like I said, you see it a million times, and eventually.
Oh, it ruins the joke. Oh, that's gotta suck.
Yeah, so you kind of lose some perspective in that, and so yeah, so I don't like working in comedy. I love funny things and stand up and whatever. That's great. And also I like stand up too, because it's not a story. It's I'm watching somebody talk to me, I guess, as it were, and it's kind of a different method that's kind of refreshing for me. Rather than sitting here editing, and here's a story, and here's the A side and the B side, and here's this main character, and we need an arc, and it's like, no, they're just going to give little anecdotes or say whatever's on their mind, and it's it's fine. But yeah, to answer the question slowly, I ran around the block when I first got the call, because it was like, okay, now I'm in the union, now I'm getting a real show, now I'm making real money, now I'm able to finally do this. And I've never had that reaction to anything. I would have run around the block twice, completely out of shape, couldn't do it, and still, but it was just full of energy. Yeah, when it first hit, it was pretty monumental. It was a good year.
What is that transition like because like I don't know what is I guess the question is like how different is the room from a non-unionized job to a unionized job? Like is it more relaxed because they're professionals and they know what they're doing, or is it more on their toes because they have more at stake?
I mean, just because the show isn't union doesn't mean that they're not professional by any means. It's just they're just not covered under that guide. Most reality TV, most of the basic ones that are on like cable and stuff, generally are not going to be, a union. Some of the bigger shows like The Voice or Survivor or something like that, what is it, The Great Race or Amazing Race or whatever. I think those are all, some of the bigger shows are going to be unionized because they make a lot of money and you can kind of demand that. The smaller shows, it's much harder, to do that. But as far as the difference, it depends on who's running the show. Honestly, it crap rolls downhill. That's really the best way to put it. I've worked on movies. Fast and Furious 9 was a great example. Justin Lin, the director, and the editing staff, Dylan, Kelly, and Greg were great, and that all just rolled downhill. It was just a fun experience to go in every day, even though we were working our butts off and not sleeping, and just there wasn't a single fly in the ointment. But I've worked on shows like Almost Human, which were also great crews. But the producers were much more, they constantly wanted to tinker, constantly wanted to change, constantly wanted to reshoot, and which is fine, but it is just a much more kind of grueling way to go about it. You're constantly having to come up with new ideas of, out of thin air versus, okay, well, this is the footage we have, we'll just, make this work. And reality TV, honestly, I never really had bad hours in reality TV, to be honest with you. I worked like.
But there's got to be so much footage with reality TV, like so much footage you got to comb through.
There is. So the way that works is, so they shoot it, editorial will ingest it. And at that time we were using tapes. We don't use tapes anymore, but you would get dozens or hundreds, depending on the type of show, of tapes a day. And so you would have, 8, 10, 12 computers, however big your show was. And you're just walking around, putting tapes in, making sure it's continuing. So then you get all of that footage and create what's called a day stack, right? So whatever they shot for the entire day, we stack it all up. So if you have 7 cameras, I have to sync all of those cameras up. If time code's there, and it's fine. And I think they came up with Pluralize, which could actually read sound time codes and kind of help you.
Yeah.
But then, so you basically prep all of that, and then story producers come in, and some of them are shooting on site, and some of them are in editorial. And so they come in and actually are starting to flesh out the story, and then they will give us I guess a cut list maybe, and then we kind of give those chunks, they're kind of broad chunks, to the editor, and the editor then has kind of a guide from the story producers, and then you go from there. So it isn't necessarily some poor soul watching 100 different takes of a 12 or 13 hour day. Yeah. They're by the time it gets to editorial, after we've ingested into the computers, somebody has kind of already penciled out where we want to go with it, and then from there they'll change it drastically. But that's how the process kind of starts.
So like how much, like from like non-unionized job to reality TV to now you're doing these bigger budget shows or movies, like in terms of editing, how quickly do you get footage in and how quickly are you editing? Like, is it, for the people that aren't watching, I'm doing a hand motion, but like production, edit, like how quickly are you getting footage in to start editing? Or do you have to give it like a buffer period of like, let's collect this much footage and then start editing, sort of thing?
So generally what they shoot on set takes about 24 hours to get in. So they shoot it, usually they'll shoot a 10 to 12 hour day. They'll break at lunch and they will ship out whatever the camera rolls that they shot, the sound rolls that they've recorded, and they'll send that to a lab, and that lab will start processing the dailies. And usually that could be 4K, that could be 8K, which is much bigger. Those are frame sizes we're talking
Jesus,
about.
I'm so behind on the times.
Oh yeah, no, I think Fincher likes to shoot with like at least 6K. But so typically then they create what are I guess proxy files. So those are these big gigantic files, and they create us little bitty proxy files that we can digest on our end, because they'll shoot a terabyte or 5 a day, and you could see on a 100-day shoot that would really, your server space has to be gigantic. And so they create smaller files for us, and that's kind of what takes a little bit of time, is getting that to a lab to process, and then back to us. Now on other shoots, I know Edgar Wright does this, and we were actually doing this on Fast 9 as well. For probably like the last month, they'll have an editor on site, and there's actually a little device that will kind of record what the cameras are seeing. It's very rough. It's not. It's nasty. You wouldn't want to do anything with it. It's got like frame grids and markers and stuff all over it.
But it helps sync everything up, imagine.
Well, so they records audio too, so it's a very rough rendition of it, and the digital imaging technician, the DIT, usually is the one that you will get that from, and then you can bring that in instantly if I wanted to. Again, it's very rough, it's very nasty, but if a director really does want to see something instantly, we do have that ability to do it, to make sure that I have all the pieces. On Fast 9, a lot of times what we would do is they would shoot something on. Second unit would shoot something in Thailand. The editors would edit it, and then they were like, okay, now we need to put the actors in these vehicles. So they have these tracking systems that track the movement of the vehicles and also track the camera movements. And so then we have these giant robotic cranes and these big blue screens, and they'll put the actors safely in there, and then we would swoop in with these cameras, and then the editor right there could go copy, paste, comp it in basically, and go, yes, we have this, this lines up well, we can move on. So it could be instant if you really want your editor on set doing that, or it could be usually no more than 24 hours.
And so when I watch a movie, I always go into it like, I do these like little mini movie reviews on Instagram. I usually put a poster of the movie home. And I don't think I've ever rated a movie less than 5. It takes a lot for me to, but that's because I understand how much fucking work goes into this sort of thing. Like what you just said is half of it I understand. The other half I'm like, what? You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's the amount of work that goes, and it's not just, what you see, like the amount of work behind the scenes that people don't see. It's a thing that I don't think people appreciate enough. Yeah. I mean, the 16-hour days with no windows or having to cover windows up sort of thing. It's insane. Yeah. And so it's fascinating to think. And now
it really is an act of God whenever anything actually comes, a television show, a reality show, a major motion picture, good or bad, you were fighting everything, nature, money, people, what physics, whatever difficulties there are. It really that's one thing that never ceases to amaze me is that we had however many thousands of people working on it, however many millions of man hours, went into making it. And there it is. It finished somehow, and it's there. So yeah, I'm with you 100%.
So we've mentioned Fast 9 and 5 a few times because that's probably the most recent film you worked on. I absolutely loved Detective Pikachu, and I told Maka we need to stay for credits to see your name because we had just met you, I think, a few years before that, and it was very cool to see your name on those credits. It was a great movie. I really loved the movie. It was such a unique way of telling that story that I thought, like in that universe, I thought was great. What was your reaction the first time that you saw your name on a credit on a big screen?
So that would have been Pirates of the Caribbean. The 5th Pirates of the Caribbean, the most recent one.
Dead Man Tell No Tales, I think it was.
Dead Man Tell No Tales, correct. Yeah. No, it was pretty amazing. I was in awe of it. My wife was like screaming whenever it happened.
She posted the video from the Fast 9. I saw your Instagram. I thought that was very cute and adorable. It's got to be great to have someone that's so supportive with the work that you do with the long shifts.
Yeah, no, it really is, and I would say she's way more excited than I am. But she certainly got to see me go from the reality TV, up through to where I am today, and Yeah, I know for me, it was just very awe-inspiring. It's like, oh, you finally did it. It's not a single card, you're not there yet. But one day. But it was great. It really was just, I don't know. I just kind of sat back and took it all, because we went to a midnight showing of it. I wanted to see it with like a good audience, because you see it with previews or preview screenings with test audiences, and that's,
it's not the same. It's not the same as people that pay a ticket to go see it.
Yeah, they didn't pay for it. It's different when people put their money on the line and you get, these reactions. Plus it's just a full theater and everybody laughing properly and all of that. And then, seeing your name at the end, it was kind of one of those things of like, it's the reason I love movies is movies are larger than life in so many other ways, whether it's a big, gigantic feature film that's just, defies physics in all aspects of it, or else it's something very, much more intimate, like A Star Is Born. But it's like, either way, it really is just larger than life. And it really was, every time it is very humbling to just see your name there. And,
I imagine that you're not this type of person, but was a part of you, or maybe your wife was like, why is everyone leaving? You guys got to stick around. This guy did this sort of thing. As people are leaving for the credits, like, no, stick around. This is him. This is him.
Oh yeah, she'll tell everybody as she's walking in, as I'm just like, geez. No, she's so supportive too. And with the hours and stuff, especially, it can be very grueling. And people don't think about that either on families, on kids, on all of that. It is so taxing, especially if you're a director or producer or any of the main kind of roles in creating that, editors, cinematographers, you're on set all the time, or you're in editorial cutting all the time, and it can be very wearing, and it takes a very special partner, to be able to help you and be able to work with you through that, and thankfully I have that. But
so what do you like? Not to get too personal here, but like you said that you have time after a film and you take 3 or 4 months. Is that like, we met on a cruise ship? Is that where you invest your time into like full force into a relationship, to going on dates, going out, that sort of thing, or like just relaxing? Like, how do you balance that? Because I mean, I imagine that you have to take some time for yourself to kind of just decompress.
Yeah, I would say my methodology is probably the first week or so, I can't do anything. I want to sit on my couch. I want to play video games. I want to sleep in. I want to clean. It kind of just depends on where it is. Sometimes when I'm done with the show, I'll at least be able to sleep in. But then I'm like, I have to clean everything. It's just this weird. Not that the house is dirty, but it's just like, I don't know.
You need to do something. You need to do something, because you're so. I understand that, because like you've been doing something for so long, for so many hours, that you can't just do nothing. You need to slowly taper yourself off.
Yep, 100%, and especially nearing the end of the film. Usually so the dailies is the most stressful part, and then for us as assistant editors, kind of the in between is a much more calm. For the editors, it's not, but for the assistant editors, it is. And then as we ramp back up for preview screenings and final mix and final VFX and finishing color, then you're just you're just pulling your hair out, and you nailed it. Like I sometimes I just can't stop, but usually that takes 2 or 3 days max, and then I'm able to kind of come down, and then I'm wanting to be able to exercise, go on hikes. We've got some wonderful trails and stuff like that out in Los Angeles, and then usually at least a week or 2 later, we do try to take a trip of some kind, and that's kind of one thing fun to do as well, as you're kind of going through the insanity leading up to the end. Is like you're kind of planning a trip, like, all right, but when I'm done with this, we're going to go to Hawaii or wherever, and we're going to have 10 or 12 days or something there, and just completely decompress. But you try not to.
You guys should come to Toronto, and we can meet up again and take you to the baseball game or something.
Yeah, I've never been to Toronto, never been to Vancouver, never seen any of
Vancouver's
Canada.
So close. It's just a drive. I mean, obviously we're kind of give it a few more months, but yeah, like.
It's at least in the same time zone, so you can't, it's not too difficult. But yeah, no, you also try not to be lazy, because so many times you can't take care of your body, your health. Usually at least on larger films and TV shows with budget, once you're hectic, they usually bring you decent food, but it's always a pizza. A struggle not to eat Doritos and Goldfish and candy bars, because when it's 16-hour days and you're going 40 days straight, you're like, you just don't care. And so then you kind of have to reel that in, reel your health back in as well. Once you're done. And so there's all sorts of kind of steps, but for me, I need at least a week to just leave me alone. Whatever I got to do, cleaning or whatever. But oh yeah, no, lots of dates, lots of, trying to take trips, see family. Her family lives in Florida. Mine live in Texas. So we usually try and do that. And then just relish kind of the time that we have, together.
So like from my experience, like as like I kind of like working on cruise ships like 6 months of the year, 12-hour days, 10-hour days, that sort of thing. And like it's just a constant barrage, like eat, sleep, party, drink, bed, eat, work, that sort of thing. And so I would always like take a week to go to my family's cottage. And like when I say take a week, I meant a week by myself with absolutely no one. And I would just watch old VHS tapes of Con Air or Face Off or what we had at the cottage because we had the VCR player. Never crossed my mind to bleep the swear words though. So I didn't have to worry about that. So it's you're doing it now, and you have a very successful career right now. You're an assistant editor. Is the main goal to become like the main editor of a story?
I mean, yeah, I'm certainly not somebody who likes to be an assistant, and I've become very good at being an assistant, which is good and bad. It's good because there's a lot more jobs for assistant editors than there are for editors. Typically you'll have multiple assistant editors on something, but maybe not necessarily more than one or two editors. You could have more. Fast and Furious had 3. Not saying it's not possible, but yeah, no, the end goal, I always like being creative. And I really love piecing everything together and finding new things that weren't there. Laying in the music and just really just seeing it all come to life is really just a very fulfilling feeling. Even if they wind up hating it in the end, you have to kind of get thick skin for that, for somebody to, I hate that music, or why is that sound effect there? Why'd you pick this take? It's not necessarily that cut and dry, but you have to be ready for criticism. You have to be ready to kind of put your heart into something and then be okay with someone going, no, it's garbage, we got to start all over. And but to just enjoy the process of creating it, and really creating the rhythm and the flow and just it's amazing, just the simplest aspects of just removing milliseconds here and there, half a frame here and there, removing just a few lines throughout a film could change how somebody
adding a beat from a song can make that moment just pop.
Absolutely. I mean, the type of music you pick is extremely important. And so, yeah, I really enjoy that. And as an assistant, we get to be a part of it. We don't really get to help too much in making it. I can present ideas. I've been given scenes to cut. Actually, in Detective Pikachu, I cut the inside with the Mr. Mime with him, that interrogation. That was one of the scenes I got to cut, was the interior of that. And it was great to sit there with an audience and see them laugh and then find out, Mr. Mime was actually the second most liked, Pokemon there. And, it was like, that's kind of cool, and so, yeah, it's definitely being an assistant is not certainly the end of my career by any stretch of the imagination. But it's just, it's time and pressure and the right place and the right time, Yeah. It really is. And I've always loved feature films. And television is much more rushed in that, but feature films.
I'm seeing that right now with Superman and Lois. I know they're on a rush right now because they took a break and then it's like back. And I just read some rumors because like, why did they just stop? And it's like COVID and all that bullshit sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, yeah, and that really changed everything. COVID, just the new protocols on set. Everyone's wearing masks and constantly being, checked, daily. Maybe not daily, but every other day or once a week. You got to get the tests and that changed a lot. Even for us, editorial, a lot of it is work from home now, and how do you safely do that so no one can hack into your servers and all of that. So yeah, it has shifted dramatically in the last year. Probably what it should take in a decade has happened over a year.
Do you find that, like, do you see that being the future of your job, is like being able to work from home to save expenses from going to studio, or do you like that idea of being able to get up and go somewhere and work?
It depends on the day. And I feel like I say that a lot. It depends. That's a lot of my answer. Right now, I'm working from home. On Samaritan, we were in offices. That was the first time I was in offices again. It's kind of a two-edged sword because I have a room dedicated to editing, and that's great. And I can wake up, I can roll out of bed, and go work, and then and then that's done. And when I'm done, I can have dinner with my wife. We can have lunch together. I don't have to worry about traffic, and sometimes you have an hour and a half commute depending on where you're going.
I've heard horror stories about LA traffic, so I know what you're talking about.
I mean, if a wreck happens in the right way, you could be stuck all day. I mean, just sitting there not moving because something horrific happened in front of you and you can't move because that's just you're in between exits, and it's like the perfect storm. So in that sense, you don't have to, you don't have to worry about that. But on the flip side is you don't get to remove yourself from home. It's like you're always home. So which is good, because then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go for a walk, or we're going to go out for dinner, or we're going to do something outside of the house. Versus when I'm working at an office, I don't necessarily want to go out. I'm like, but I'm gone all day. I want to enjoy the house. And, my wife may want to like go out to dinner or something, and I'm just too exhausted. So in that sense, it kind of just, it pushes us to me anyways, to want to be out of the house, even during a hectic schedule.
It's a fine line of a separation of a work and life balance. Like it's like, that's why we do 8-hour days. Like the regular people do 8-hour days sort of thing. Right. So like you have that balance, but when you're in a field like yours, where time is of the essence, so you gotta push through that sort of thing.
Yeah, but you also have to fight the need to work for free. Like if somebody says something and they, I always have to fight the urge. Not that anybody expects it immediately, but I always have to fight the urge to go do it right then and there, even if it's 10 o'clock at night, because I'm like, what's right there? I could do it. And I'm like, wait, nope, can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be selfish in those sort of dynamics, to like take care of yourself first, so that you can do good at your job. Because if you go in at that 10 o'clock hour, I imagine you're probably not going to be right in mind. You might fuck something up, and that will affect your career going forward. Like, I think what we're slowly realizing is that taking care of oneself is actually more beneficial to one's career than you would think, sort of thing.
No, absolutely, and that's one of the difficult things with this industry is you're fighting that every day. And for me, I know the discussions I have with my wife and friends and stuff like that, and colleagues, is just the time that it demands. And honestly, I don't know how you could do what we do in an 8-hour day. Because eventually it backlogs. And then and then the last couple of months just wind up being bad anyways. Because I 100% agree. You make the worst decisions with, 15-hour days, and creatively, technically, whatever, you're not making good decisions. But at the same time, it's the studios and a lot of times the producers just kind of, demand excellence. And that sometimes you just don't have the time. You have release dates that you're backed up against, and you don't have the luxury of making Avatar over 4 years.
What a pull! What a reference!
Yeah. So
I think it's been 10 years, hasn't it? I mean, what was the last time?
I think it took them 4 years to make the first one.
Yeah, because all those effects. I mean, all right. So I actually, like, you work on films that have special effects. So like, do you get the effects in and then you edit, or are you like you're an editor, you're an assistant editor, you're not graphics, right? So how does that work?
So we will temp some things in, for instance, like blue screen or green screen. If there's a screening coming up, for a preview audience or a producer or the studio, we can remove those pretty easily within our systems and maybe replace the background or, some basic things like that using Avid or After Effects, or Photoshop. VFX though is a whole different animal.
VFX is similar to reality TV. It's a whole different thing.
It's a whole different thing, but it's completely the same thing at the same time. Essentially, we bring stuff in. We have what's called post visualization. This is after they shoot it, and they put in very rough kind of animatics, of in Fast 9, it's cars. For Pirates of the Caribbean, it would be ships, and stuff like that.
Pokemon would be Pokemon.
Or Pokemon, yeah, and you kind of have, so you get a sense of where it is, and then the director, will like, okay, we can turn over these shots or this sequence, and then you just start getting roughs in. You get different layers and versions, very rough kind of grayscale versions, which is just looks like clay almost, just kind of getting you the physics and stuff like that there, and then you get textures and lighting and stuff like that. And as they come in, the editors look at it, bring it in, will show it to director, and the director will approve or disapprove of where they stand. And give notes and ideas and things they would like to alter as we go. So, and that process goes really from the very beginning to the very, very end. But obviously you need everything there, at least sound wise, has to be locked, right? If I'm throwing the ball, it's got to hit at the same time because we're mixing. Now we may get past that mix area, when we're finished with the movie, and then VFX are still trickling in for the next month. That can't change. And so it's just a lot of communication back and forth with that stuff.
Your inbox must be full.
Yes, all the time. Thankfully for us, though, we have VFX editors and VFX assistants that their sole job is keeping track of the 2,200 visual effects shots in a movie, and to make sure everything comes in correctly, and they show it to the editors and the director, and then they approve or disapprove from there. But it's always fun because everything gets better and better and better as it goes. And you're like, oh, the Detective Pikachu looks fantastic. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And you just, because you never fully know what it's going to look like until you actually see it.
Until you actually make it and see it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why I wanted to have you on, is because I got to meet you. We quickly became friends. You were very easy to chat to. And I'm tired of people kind of not knowing the behind the scenes of what it takes to make a movie. And I feel like this conversation has kind of given people an idea of holy shit, there's so much more to it that, DiCaprio doing a great monologue or whatever the fuck it is, sort of thing, So we're going to wrap it up. I have a few more questions for you. You're like I've said before, you're doing it now. Your end goal, I feel, is to be an editor. Do you have any aspirations for I don't know how to word this, but do you have aspirations to win awards for editing, or is there a certain type of film that you'd like to work on, and is it Godzilla? Would you love to be a full circle thing where you're working on a Godzilla film, or do you have any goals, or is it kind of just do the job and hopefully that stuff will come?
It's funny because there were some movies that you walk out of and you're like, yeah, I want to work on something like that. For me, I think it's the feeling I get watching a film. Mad Max would be a great example, like the first Pirates of the Caribbean, Jaws. Some of the movies that you love, you hope you get to work on something like that. A Star Is Born was a great film. The music was amazing. We got Academy nominations and stuff like that for it. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody, of course, wants to be recognized, for your hard work, and the Academy, obviously, for feature films is kind of where that's at. Now, there are internal, usually each guild, editors have their own awards, cinematographers have their own awards, actors.
Oh, cool! I did not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. The directors have their own. They have their own awards. You'll sometimes hear the SAG awards, the DGA awards. So it's always good. It's always wonderful to have your colleagues appreciate your work, and also people that really understand what you went through, as well. The Academy is a little different because at the end of the day, the entire Academy votes on best director, best writer, and a lot of people don't necessarily know what editing entails. An actor may not necessarily fully grasp what it is we do to make sure they look amazing, or at least as amazing as it can possibly be. But yeah, I try to. I hope that I would be able to try and just. For me, at the end of the day, having that feeling of just euphoria and kind of getting chills and teared up, in a movie, not necessarily because something's sad or anything like that, because something's happy or because something is grand, in the scope of it, and with the music and everything together, it kind of, I guess, harkens back to me enjoying marching band and bands so much as a kid. It's the ensemble and kind of being the one to piece that all together. And so for me, it's just more the feeling, I think, of sitting down and watching the movie and actually enjoying it and having helped create that than necessarily getting an award. Award would I'm saying it now anyways, we'll see how long that lasts, but awards at least are kind of secondary, but it would certainly be wonderful to be recognized for your work at some point one day.
One day would be cool because my wife and I always watch the Oscars, and it would be so surreal. Like if we were at an Oscar present, hey, we know that guy that's getting the award for this, and people wouldn't believe us. But like,
there it is.
I think you're well on a path. You have a great, solid career. You have a beautiful wife, a supportive wife, which is, I think, one of the most important things that you have in this industry. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I respect you so much. You're such a cool dude, and I was so glad to meet you on that run in on the cruise ship. So I hope to talk to you in the future. But thank you for being on the podcast. Do you have like an Instagram or Twitter or anything that you'd like to promote or anything? Like go see Fast 9 maybe?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I never checked my Instagram. I don't know how that would work. I think I have 3 pictures on there, so it probably wouldn't help anybody. But it's, oh God, what is my Instagram handle? Jeez Louise, I don't even know it. That's how. I guess it's L Dillon Thomas. Is my Instagram handle. But what was the other question? What happened?
Is there are there any projects you'd like to promote that you're working on that you can promote? I know you have to sign NDAs and stuff like that. So.
Oh, well, I mean, we can always promote, whatever. Fast and Furious 9 obviously is the most recent one out, and really just keeping the theaters alive at this point is kind of key, especially as these new variants come around, and just take advantage of it while you can. Because for me, the communal experience of a movie theater,
it doesn't, like, my friends often say, like, oh, why would I want to go to the theaters? Because you get to shut your phone off for like 3 hours, 2.5 hours, and you get to actually just enjoy it. Like right now, my wife and I, like, if we watch a movie, I make sure to leave my phone in my room, and even that's a struggle. But sure. I like going out. I like the theater experience. It's never going to die. Yeah. No one can tell me otherwise because of that communal experience, in my opinion.
No, 100%. And then so for me, that would be the best thing is to just see, movies that you can when you can, and also, not that you shouldn't be harsh, not that an audience should care about how much work or effort goes into it. If you don't like a movie, you don't like a movie. But for me, I always, I say always. I've recently come into, and especially talking with a colleague of mine, just appreciating that we have work, we have jobs. People are doing it, and whether someone likes it or not, it was beneficial for us to have worked on it, in that sense. So, but yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep going to movies, and Samaritan. I'm not sure when that's coming out, and I'm currently on The Toxic Avenger. If they're actually remaking that.
Oh shit! Really?
So,
nice.
So yeah, we're working on that right now.
All right. So end of this. My question to you, from one film fan to another, what's a movie that you're most looking forward to seeing in a theater upcoming?
So I would say that the 3 movies that I was super excited about outside of Fast 9 was Black Widow, which I have not gotten to see yet. I have a lot of friends that worked on that one, and actually the new Top Gun looks a lot of fun. Is
that coming out soon?
Yeah, I think it comes out like October, maybe. I don't think.
Oh hell yeah! I'm so on board with that.
I could be wrong. Yeah, look it up. But the Top Gun and then Dune.
Dune
movie. Those are the 3 films that I would say that I'm the most excited for this year.
My wife and I had planned this big epic date night to go see Dune last year, and now that's coming out, we're just like, I think that it's the most excited I've been for a film in quite some time. Outside of the new Bond would be one of those ones.
Oh, right. Yeah. The new James Bond. Yeah. I'm a huge Bond fan. I forgot that. I think that's November. Yeah. So 4 films. We have
much entertainment to look forward to. We have much entertainment to look forward to in your career. I look forward to seeing you on more credits in the future. Dylan, thank you so much for being on the show, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for tuning in, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of the podcast. I know I had a really great conversation with Dylan. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm looking forward to watching the F9, the Fast Saga, the newest film from Vin Diesel and all those guys. I loved Pokemon Detective Pikachu, Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm looking at his IMDb right now. He's done so much work that's all worth a while to check out. A lot of good content there, and he's got 31 credits to his name. So if you guys ever want to reach out to him, I do believe he's on Instagram at L Dillon Thomas on Instagram. Let me just double check this. This is tedious, I know. He's at L Dillon Thomas on Instagram. If you want to kind of reach out to him and say you enjoyed his interview, or he's just a good guy to chat with. So maybe have him on your podcast if you have podcasts and you're listening to this podcast. That's it for me today, guys. Thank you very much, and have a great evening. Cheers.